Hey, everybody. Welcome to Perpetual Motion, a podcast focused on self-care, financial independence, and better relationships. I'm Mo Anderson, your host, and joining me today is Derick Johnson. Derick is a U.S. Army veteran, life coach, and trainer who helps clients and major companies go from just surviving to thriving in their mindset, finances, and fitness. If you're struggling with body image issues, addiction, divorce, suicidal thoughts, or just analysis paralysis, prepare to be motivated.
You can't say Dr. Mo ain't tell ya that fear magnifies the consequences of failure. What are you scared of? Why are you afraid?
Welcome, Derick.
Hey, Dr. Mo. Pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. I'm looking forward to hearing some of your strategies. I know you work with major companies and lots of clients, and you have a lot to share, so let's get after it.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
All right. I want to kind of start with your personal journey, particularly as a U.S. Army veteran. I think that was very impactful. Could you share some pivotal moments from your time in the Army and how they shaped your approach to coaching and leadership?
Yes, great question. So first off, I did satellite communications in the Army. I was always a tech nerd. So people assume that I was infantry because I was just always training with infantry guys, but I was the guy on the computer. Essentially, you could be anywhere in the world, set up the satellite, give everybody internet, radio, commos, and so forth. So 70% of the time, you're waiting for a problem to happen to help the general, to help your team, and so forth. So a lot of the downtime, we would be studying, learning things, shift work, and all that. And so I was always diving deep into becoming a better personal trainer because at the time, my other job inside of the Army was master fitness trainer. So essentially, I would help all the soldiers get mission ready physically, mentally. If they did gain weight after a injury, help them to be prepared so they hit the standard. So I was always empowering soldiers and I was working with everyone. But a huge takeaway working with different ethnicities, genders, backgrounds, and so forth is it really helped me to identify how to approach people differently with leadership. And on the flip side, seeing an example of a leader that I did not want to be like and how I did not want to make people feel. And then on the flip side, seeing somebody make the whole morale elevate. And so that is an interesting thing that I would always notice is how the best leaders could control the morale of a platoon, of a room, banquet, of a company, whatever it is. And so the biggest takeaway would be how to approach different people and how to know what their patterns are. So I got really good at identifying people's patterns as in how should I approach her or him? So an example, a negative example in the military is in the U.S. Army, we have a thing called the knife hand. A lot of people speak to each other like this. They just like point in your face and not just drill sergeants, but they do this. And so a lot of them, they'll use their rank to their advantage and say, I have this rank, so you need to listen to me, even though they may not have good communication skills and not good leadership skills. So it's all pride and ego is in the way. And then the team's morale would just drop.
Right.
You got their first 10 minutes, just their condescending tone and all that. And so that energy, it has its time and place. But if you're lowering the team's morale, then nobody's going to want to listen. They're not going to want to work on it. So on the flip side, I always made sure to empower people. So when I can sense that the energy was off before we do anything, we'd be at attention. I'd say, hey, for 30 seconds, we're just going to release. Just yell as loud as you can. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I just start yelling. And they start yelling. So imagine like 50 people. I was like, all right, shake your arms, get loose. All right, everybody stop yelling. Relax your shoulders, take a deep breath. All right, today we're going to focus on this. And in that moment, the whole energy shifted. It took less than 30 seconds, but I just made sure to cut the tension in the air before we get started. So the biggest takeaway was how to identify people's patterns and work with various people. So that way we can get the best results of the job that we're doing.
Absolutely. I like that because, and I know that definitely translated into corporate because that authoritative leadership style, and I'm going to say it's very prevalent in my generation who, boomers, we kind of dominate leadership in a lot of areas, but it's because of, our core values and culture and how we grew up and getting engagement, listening,
Exactly.
And being responsive, using your emotional intelligence just leads to a much better team, much better morale. So that's a wonderful example. And I didn't know that about the military, that they had coaches to do that. Fitness, of course, but working on your
Yes.
mindset, helping you with your weight loss. I just appreciate our veterans so much because they have to endure a lot for our safety and freedom. So I'm happy to know a little bit more about what they go through. While you were in the military, you were awarded Soldier of the Year 3 times. Did we get that right? Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh my goodness, that's incredible. How did that recognition impact your personal growth and professional journey?
It helped me a ton because I grew up as the shy, quiet kid. As a child in teenage years, I was skinny, I was bullied, I had a lot of family trauma, and I had to become who I am now. I had to become the person I was confident to speak to people and all that. So the biggest thing that I got from those things was just making my younger version proud. So the way that you compete for Soldier of the Year, you go to the board, and not everybody has to. It's all volunteer basis if you want to. So you don't just like get picked because of paperwork. You actually have to go through a 3-step process. Number 1 is a physical fitness test and various other things physically. Number 2 is a written test and a verbal test. A verbal test, as in you pound on the door, they let you in, and then all the top ranks are in this half square table, and you got to stand there. Then they tell you to sit, and you just have to get scolded by questions.
That's
And they
just
might
like
ask
doing
you
a
opposing.
dissertation. It sounds like you're defending a dissertation. That is, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. So that's what had the most pressure on most people. So a lot of people, they were in shape. They could push themselves. The written tests, they're like, hey, I got this. But what made most people nervous was going to the board. And people are like, man, if I could just do that digitally, I'd go for Soldier of the Year. But I would thrive in those situations because I enjoyed pressure. The reason I say that is because of my upbringing. I'm used to my 6'3" African-American father, who's a farm boy from Mississippi, yelling in my face. I'm used to my 5'4" German mother yelling in my face all the time. So like that's how our upbringing was just a lot of yelling in our house. And so the pressure in the military that would stress a lot of people, I would just laugh in my head because I was like, I've been dealing with this all my life. So this is my gold zone. So whenever that would happen is I would just be calm, and they could sense that energy. So I wouldn't get flustered of my thoughts, wondering, what do I say next? Because that's the whole intent, is to try to break you. It's just a game to make sure that you're prepared for a real situation. But it entails the fitness test, a written test, and then a verbal test going to the board. And then on top of that is like your packet, your leadership skills, awards, other things that you probably received, and feedback that other soldiers gave you. So all of this goes into your packet, and then they vote on who gets it. So I just wanted to share like exactly what it entails, because sometimes people just think somebody shows up to work and then they just get awarded. But in the Army, it's like, no, you have to actually go through a process to even get considered by it. But the big reason I did it, and my takeaway from it, was making my younger version proud. That insecure skinny boy that got bullied, that had a very bad stuttering issue and went through a lot of stuff. He's proud of the current me. So I would perspective hop a lot, and I did it more so for him, not just like post it on Facebook or just to have an accolade or to thing on my uniform. It was more so to face that fear, because I used to not be this person.
Exactly. And we've had a similar journey. I talk all the time now, and like you have clients that do a lot of speaking, and unbelievably the same thing. I didn't get bullied so much because I had a really big friend who made sure I didn't. I had to do her homework, but I was okay with that.
That's awesome.
Quiet, literally clinging to my mother's leg as a toddler. Got older, I didn't want to friction. I didn't want to be noticed, all of that. And my mom wasn't a yeller, but my dad was a yeller. And unlike you, I took some of that into adulthood, but then I realized it was damaging relationships. And I'm saying this because both of us have transformed ourselves, become more confident, better speakers, overcome challenges, and those limiting beliefs that I can't, or my family's like this, or what somebody told you, is what's holding so many people back. But you and I are examples. You can change. You can decide you're going to change, and you can change.
Exactly.
I love what you're sharing. So we got the military background, which is so impressive. And I'm glad that you explained the awards and some of the things that you encountered. But you also have a degree in exercise science.
Yes.
You're that guy.
Oh, yeah.
How does improving physical fitness and mental resilience intersect to help individuals achieve holistic well-being? I think too many people are separating fitness from the mindset.
Yes, you're absolutely right, because there's a psychology quote that goes, if the problem is in the mind, the solution is in the body. If the problem is in the body, the solution is in the mind. Most of society has a problem here, meaning stress. I'm not saying like mental problem, but in general, problem is overthinking, negative thoughts, intrusive thoughts, traumas, negative internal dialogue, things of that nature. The problem is here. The solution is actually in their body, meaning we can't think ourselves to happiness. We can't think ourselves into an empowered state. We have to change our state, move our body. Some people dance, some people lift weights, some go running, some do yoga, Pilates, martial arts. They can choose whatever for their body, but everyone has had a workout where afterwards they just felt on a high, confident, mindset is open. They have a better relationship with God. The universe is giving them signs and symbols, whatever they believe. And they're just like, I don't know what's happening right now. Things are just flowing to me. So that example, many people could relate to, that they got their best ideas or best visions after some physical activity. And so bringing that up is because they released whatever was happening inside. So that direct correlation is a great reminder for people. If the problem is here, the solution is here. So if somebody does go running, when was the last time that they did something physically with their hands, helped somebody build a fence, did something that was creative, went on a hike? Or I like to ask people, when was the last time they got in a body of water and just dunked themselves under it and like splashed it and released their inner child? Like that is real as well. So they're always work mode, parent, gym, traffic, and they never really release. And then they just like binge watch shows, but they never have that time to release. So I'm bringing this up to challenge people to choose what their outlets will be outside of just the workout, which is also revolving physical. It could be dancing, just jumping in a pool, splashing water, playing with the kids, playing with your dogs, things of that nature. And so they'll realize that psychologically they feel better, they have more clarity, and they can much faster and easier get into flow state when they do their deep work in whatever their career is. But that's a perspective that I love to look at, because I can usually sense by someone's body language if they're storing trauma in the body, if they're storing stress, if they've only focused on the body, and you can tell that they're just clouded up here or vice versa. But it's always interesting to tell who has what. And when you give the person that's usually dominant in one area, if you give them more of the other area, then they're like, oh man, I've had the best ideas and this and this. I crushed my presentation and all these positive things are happening. You're like, yes, because you only have done this, and you put yourself in a box. So the mind body have a direct correlation. And so you're totally right when it comes to the disconnect. The reason people have a disconnect is because they say, I'm so busy, I don't have time to do X, Y, Z, the gym, go for walks. And so weeks after week, month after month, they have that pressure and stress built up in them. And most people, especially in business, they mask it. Alcohol, drugs, binge eating, too many social interactions. Maybe they don't consume anything bad. They just have too much social interactions because they don't want to sit with their thoughts. So masking, overshadowing, and so forth. But if that person took 30 minutes on a Saturday morning or an hour and hiked wherever they live and just said, Google, where is the closest park or trail? And they found it and went there for 30 minutes or an hour alone and just went out in nature and hiked, broke a sweat, stood at the top, just looked out and really used all their senses to take everything in. Guarantee you every single person that walks back to their car, they're going to feel enlightened, open, and ideas about work will start flowing. And they'll see things in a different strategy rather than on emotion about what problem they have to solve. But I like to bring up these examples because people could relate to at least one of those. And that's why I like to always focus on that. So we don't put ourselves in a box and we're not running on E because we've neglected one part of us, whether that is the mind or the body.
Or the body. Absolutely. And you're right. It's either one or the other to the extremes. But I want to ask, when I find that I'm a very active person, but when I get my flow, it's when I go on vacation or when I get some rest. and
Yes.
I know exercise is important, but can that have a similar impact on you? Because I swear, when I'm on vacation and after vacation, I have the best ideas. I got character, I got speech ideas, I got all of this stuff, and it's just like a geyser coming up out of me. Is that also equally important?
Yes, 100%. Changing up your environment as well. And so,
Mhm.
example one could be just like you mentioned, traveling, that adrenaline rush of traveling. And
Mhm.
on the way home, you're in the plane and just ideas just come to you. Like, where's my notebook? I need to
Right,
jot
right,
this down. You're
right.
like, where is this coming from? I was forcing this thought 2 weeks ago and now it's just flowing with no effort. And I believe on a spiritual level, you're just closer to God. So when you're in an airplane, you're not thinking about stuff. Your phone's on airplane mode. So there's really no there's really no distractions. So you can just write and flow. On the flip side, if somebody doesn't have the time, finances, or other resources to travel, I
Mhm.
challenge people to change up their work environment. If they work remote, go work at your local library, go work at a workspace for 2 days.
Mhm.
Guarantee you they'll get so much done because they're not at home or they're not in the office if they work hybrid. And if they do have an office that they have to be at, change the direction of their desk or go to
Mhm.
another room or go to the upstairs lobby, wherever they are. And they'll start feeling some different type of energy and flow state because they change up their environment. It is, I wouldn't say as strong as traveling, but it is still very effective if they change up their environment. So one of my clients, every couple of weeks now, she literally rearranges her office because it helps her flow. So for her, it's like 20 feet difference, but psychologically, she feels in a much better flow because of where she lives, but it works opposed to sitting in this chair at the
Right.
same spot. If somebody feels like they've been losing or not being productive, it's hard for them to get in a good zone. But if they literally just change up their environment and on that day, go work somewhere else and say, you know what, I'm
Right.
going to get 2 hours of deep work done there, they're going to surprise themselves and be like, wow, that was the best 2 hours of work I've done in months. I need to
You
start
you
doing
are
more of this.
you are so right, and I do that even at home, and you just, put the science, the physiology or neurology behind what I'm doing, but I sit in my office, I'm a dental consultant and I work 10-hour days. And so I'm in that office all the time. And then
Yes.
on the weekends, like this, right now I'm in my studio, but on the weekends I've got my own business to take care of. But I'll go on the patio, I'll go in the kitchen, I'll sit on the couch, and I hadn't really thought about why I'm doing it. I just thought I can't be in the office
Oh yeah,
anymore
for
because
sure.
the office is work, and that's what it reminds me of. And even though the other things I'm doing are a form of work, I just need a different space and environment and energy to it. And I just did it instinctively. I hadn't thought about what you just said, the way you explained it. Now I know why I'm doing it.
Oh
So
yeah. And it's
thanks.
interesting. Our subconscious mind stores the information and data that says if I sit in this chair, I watch TV with my girlfriend or I pet my dog or I read. If she
Hmm.
sits in this chair, she focuses and writes. If he sits on the floor over here, he does something. So the subconscious compartmentalizes where we do what. So the issue is when people try to work and play at the same desk, in the same chair,
Mm.
or wherever it is, the brain is like, is it Netflix time or are we just trying to send some email or write a dissertation? Like, what are we doing right now? Because normally you sit here and watch YouTube and now you're trying to force me, this is your mind talking to yourself. You're trying to
Right,
force me
right.
to write something in depth, but I'm thinking it's YouTube time. So that can help a lot is identify where do I do what in the home. Even if somebody just has a small apartment, they can literally do different things in a different chair. So if
Right.
somebody tries to work at their island that they eat breakfast at, they won't be as focused unless they go sit at a table. Or if they eat at the table and then work at the island and vice
Hmm.
versa, so they split it up. So it's very interesting because the subconscious will store all that so you can get into a specific zone without even
Hmm.
trying. Like when I sit on my
Gotcha.
couch, my brain is just like, even if I don't lay down. So
Right. This is where we
myself,
relax.
yeah,
Gotcha. Gotcha. And I don't know if I said bedroom in my list, but I don't take work into my bedroom. I used
good.
to, but then that feeling started following me into the bedroom. I'm like, no, this is my refuge. This is my place where I rest. The only work I'm doing in here is making my bed and a little housekeeping.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I had to change that. So cool. So folks, right now, this is worth the price of admission, right? Look at all these great strategies you got to help your mindset and get you in a better frame of mind. And that's going to help your relationships. It's going to help you work. It's going to help you in so many ways when you're less stressed and anxious. So, Derick, let's talk about from surviving to thriving. And this is a broad question. You take it wherever you want to, but I know that you've helped hundreds of clients and companies, major companies, transition from, as you say, surviving to thriving. Can you share a few key principles or strategies that are effective in this transformation? And I guess that's around the client side, since listeners are going to be individuals.
Yes, for sure. So step one with anyone, no matter what level they are, personally, physically, financially, or in their life as a whole, is I always recommend that people grab a pen and paper and write out an eliminate sheet. So the question they want to ask themselves is, what could I eliminate that'll help me make more progress? Or what can I replace with something better that'll help me make more progress? So the basics start with what we eat and drink. If example one, Michelle, if she eats or drinks too much sugar, maybe she's like, you know what? Let me write down sugar. I need to have less sugar. Okay. Maybe he says, you know what? I need to drink a little bit less, have less alcohol, whatever the case may be. So start with what we consume, what we eat, what we drink. Next step is what we do on our devices. What are we scrolling? What are we looking at? Is somebody opening up CNN at 6:30 a.m.? They just woke up and they just see 99% negativity? Or are they opening up a book? Are they going for a walk? So start with what we physically consume, eat or drink. What are we consuming on our phones? And after that, look at your environment. Are there people in your life that speak condescending to you and are always dragging you down or always calling you because they need something? So reassessing and rating your circle. But we're not saying to cut off everybody, but more so to see, is your energy being drained? Is your mental bandwidth on E because of your environment? So, and then they can start to go deeper. So starting off with what we consume physically, digitally, our circle. And then at that point, the mind starts flowing and say, you know what? Intrusive thoughts. Let me write that down.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying thank you when somebody gives a genuine compliment and then undermining myself, downplaying myself. Hey, your skin's looking great today. You look refreshed. Oh, no. I used to have cystic acne and this. I tried Proactive.
Right.
And they're like, all right. Giving him or her a genuine compliment.
For women, oh, that's a cute outfit. Girl, I've had this forever. It's blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Oh, no, you know what? I need to lose about 10 pounds. You're just like,
yeah. I look good. That's all we need to say. Thank you. I look good.
Exactly. 100%. So all these examples are things that people may relate to, but the key is it's all about them. So I always recommend people start with what they eat or drink, even as an organization. If somebody did this together with their team, individually, each person has clarity and say, you know what, if I did get rid of this, or if I did leave that group chat that they talk about nothing but celebrities and it brings no value to me, that can help them psychologically, where everybody has that little annoyance in their head. It's the little things that add up. So it doesn't mean they have to fully go cold turkey on something major. It's usually the small things. One of the biggest things is the snooze button. The snooze button is so simple, but that's the first test of the day.
No, not the snooze button.
You're like, no, my Wi-Fi went out. I lost connection there. So
that's my friend. That's my bestie.
So you know how it is. Sometimes you might hit it 2 or 3 times, and then next thing you're like, oh shoot,
I'm
rushing. Yeah. Anxiety goes up, and in that day and in that moment, everybody needs you. Emails, texts, calls, messages, team chats.
Right.
Like, can I get 10 minutes myself? But all of these are just examples. So that's step one, is if somebody can be fully transparent with themselves, not being angry or sad about it, and just assessing themselves from the outside in. What do I need to get rid of that'll help me make more progress? And what could I replace with something better? So starting like that internally and externally can help a ton before they look at the professional side, anything major, because step one is first elimination, opposed to adding to his or routine, adding to their schedule. Because for most people, that's not sustainable. Right. But if they first build some power and clarity with getting rid of stuff, they feel like they can breathe a little and they're like, I haven't really thought about this. And all we're doing is snapping them out of their autopilot zone. Autopilot is open the fridge, grab the sugar thing, pour the fake artificial creamer in the coffee. It's like autopilot, not even thinking. Sugar level does this all day. They're like, why am I so tired and craving carbs? But they don't realize that they're doing it to themselves a lot of the time. So really just being transparent with ourselves. But that is step one that I always recommend that people do individually and as a team. Because at a cultural standpoint of a team, they could say, what do we need to eliminate that'll help us make more progress? hey, Jimmy, he has too many tabs open, or she waits till 3 p.m. to do this project, or hey, he works better between 8 and 9 on this thing with the team flow. And just being totally transparent and changing things around that'll help the team. But you can do that as a whole and as a collective as well. And everybody's just trying to help each other. We're not just pointing to say, oh, he has to get rid of this. It's more so just transparency with the intent to have power and to have more focus.
Yeah, I like that. And I want to go back just a little bit and just piggyback on the excellent point you made about the people around you. And yeah, it's really hard for most of us to just cut somebody off cold turkey. And that's not always necessary. I just say I love some people from a distance and we interact periodically. But the big thing is, if you're not sure if it's a toxic person, how do you feel when you leave their company? I mean, that's key for me. Do I feel uplifted, inspired? I'm excited. I can't wait to see them again. Or do I just feel like, oh my God, oh my God. And the programs too that you mentioned, and I used to be a CNN junkie, not to pick on them. A lot of news programs now are just negative, not positive, but I can't even watch it anymore in the morning because so I'm watching YouTube. There's a lady who does these wonderful prayers and scriptures and stuff in the morning. And it is the most delightful way to start my day. So it doesn't have to be, if you're not a morning person like me, you're going to need something external. But positive to get you revved up. And there's so many options to what you might have done for years, but you don't have to keep doing that. I think is really the theme going through here. You can change a lot of things and really change everything about how you feel and how you move forward. I know there are a lot of people who don't have the background you have in terms of, learning the art of leadership. You've got the skills, the certification, the degree. What advice would you give to someone who's listening and they're aspiring leaders? But what would you say to them about investing in continuing formal education or coaching? Why is that important?
Great question. So number one is just to see the big picture of life and to become that best version of ourselves. It's just a never ending learning journey. So we think of the destination. Some people will place confidence or happiness on an end destination, but confidence, happiness, and self-love comes along the journey. And we fall in love with the person that we become. So if that person can see information, coaching, education, certification, degrees, as in, hey, this is just something to add to my repertoire to enhance myself in professional, personal, whatever it is. But if they see it long term, it can say, I checked the box. It's a different perspective rather than, oh, got to do another certification. Then I got to study for this. And if that negative energy and connotation is there, then they're not going to really have excitement. Then they see it as a drag. They see it as, oh, just another thing. I already had 4 years of college now. And then they're back in that loop. But seeing it as a challenge, but to see the big picture of why do I need to do this? Or what is a problem that I cannot solve myself? I don't have the information. I don't know what I don't know. Who is somebody I can speak to that knows that? And so nowadays, it's the beauty of social media and the internet is there's a lot of experts. Yes, on the flip side, there's a lot of people who act like gurus and just sell some crap. But I digress. But on the good side is that you can find individuals that you can Google them and you can see people that have worked with them, programming, coaching, mentoring, and whatever industry they're in. But the good thing is that is the cheat code and a fast path to the skills, not to success, but to the skills. The faster somebody can attain the skills, the higher their confidence goes. And then they can really do the deep work to say, you know what? She's way better at sales now. He's way better at coding. And he taught himself from a YouTube video, or he taught himself from some website and some guy was teaching it. And that golden nugget he needed. But just being open-minded and excited to learn and to say, skills pay the bills, skills pay the bills.
Skills
How can I get more skills?
I love that. All right. That's a tweet right there. I love that. Skills pay the bills. Put that on your mirror. Get a marker. Put that on your mirror. Look at it every morning. And additionally, one of the things I see a lot is that people are not taking advantage of opportunities at their companies for whether it's tuition reimbursement or so many dollars for continuing education or money for just doing fitness, for just doing stuff you need to go do anyway. Getting your checkup, back when we were doing the vaccinations, doing that, a lot of companies have these programs now where they're really trying to encourage you to do the right thing because they don't love you so much. They want healthy employees because healthy
Yes.
employees are productive, but nevertheless, there's something in there for you. Don't leave that money on the table. Everything my company offers, I don't care what it is. Oh yeah, I'll take that class. I'm taking advantage of it because if they want to invest in me, I surely want to invest in myself. And if I can do it on their dime, please take advantage of those things. I don't
Exactly.
know. I don't know another way to say it except you need to take advantage and you need to know everything that they offer too, because it's not always out there real,
Oh yeah.
obvious.
Exactly. Learning on somebody else's dime. I just want to bounce off of that. That's one of the best
Come
things
on.
that people just see it as I'm just in this role, title, and position. And then they get blindsided or they get blinded by what they're doing and they don't notice anything else. Or it's like, wait, did you know that we had this sector? I saw that a lot in the military where a lot of soldiers, you just don't know how many programs there are besides just like the basic things. And once I got out, my buddies would teach me this stuff. I'm like, where did this even come from? I didn't even know any of these programs existed. They're like, yeah, you can do this and this and this and that and real estate. I was like, what? Nobody teaches us any of this stuff. But that's the best part about communicating and finding the people that are experts in that thing. There's always somebody that like, oh, here's a website link with 20 different programs that we have within the company. They're like, what? This exists? Nobody even knew this. And the person's like, yeah, nobody comes to my office. It's like, we didn't even know you were in this building.
Exactly. They don't. And that goes to community as well. You have to be in relationship with people and particularly with people who are doing what you want to do, not just doing what you do, but who are doing what you want to do. I'm in some Facebook groups, the positive side of social media, like you were saying, with people who are doing some awesome things and they drop links about opportunities that I just don't have time. I wouldn't have known because I can't go to 900 different websites and read everybody's newsletter, So be in community with people who are doing what you want to do, people who are better at it. Absolutely. So we're going to end with this question that I think will resonate amongst anyone listening. Thriving amid challenges. And we know life often presents challenges. That's where a lot of our growth comes from, but it's sure as heck not fun. Are there any mindset shifts or practices you encourage when we face adversity? And you can be specific or just generally about adversity, Derick. Thank you.
Yes, 100%. So there's a term called perspective hopping. Hopping. So when a situation arises, a problem faces you, number one, breathe, pause and breathe. It sounds so straightforward, but most people's gut reaction is off emotion and they just like, boom, and they get reactive. So pause, breathe, zoom out and look at your higher version, like your version 10.0, whoever you're trying to become, the man or woman that you always needed and that you would be proud of. Think from that person's perspective. What would they do in this moment? Okay. Now look at the present moment and say, do I have the resources or what do I need to do? Then look at younger version and say, you know what? Younger version is proud of current me because he or she has overcome all these things, hundreds of things. So technically we're undefeated. If you're still alive right now, you're undefeated. So you're 1,000-0 or 850-0, whatever it is, because you haven't lost because we're all still alive. So perspective hopping and then coming back to your present moment to say, okay, I'm blessed. I'm proud of myself. My version 10.0 would act like this. I also have my faith. Okay, perfect. In that moment, they're going to be so calm and conscious to figure out what the solution is. So the mind is not on, oh, this is happening, stress. Oh, another thing, depression, anxiety, etc. Yes, we feel it, but you have to catch yourself by breathing, zooming out, looking at different perspectives, coming back to your present self and saying, what can I control?
Yes.
Okay, I can control this. Let's start with that before we take this one thing and write a story about ourselves. Well, bad things just happened to me. Yeah, I just have the worst luck ever. Before you say any of those things out loud or think it, pause and breathe, zoom out, come back to it. And you'll less likely have any of those thoughts come in because you're now solutions focused and say, I can handle this. You know what? Let me call my friend. He's the expert in this. Let me find somebody that can help. But it gets you out of your autopilot negative response, which can then dictate the rest of your day or the rest of your month. Because sometimes people, they'll take that mental state of the present moment and they stay in it for hours. And people at work feel it, on Zoom feel it, in public. So
the energy is very negative and bad. And
exactly. So perspective hopping, coming back to the moment, to be in a solution focused mindset, and then empowering yourself to really look at what you have already been through and learned. And you're like, you know what? Challenge accepted. It is what it is. What am I going to do about it? Cry or yell about it? You can be angry for 10 minutes, release what you need, but within 10 minutes, it's time to get things done. So that way we build confidence. And the best thing about this mentality is that after they solve the issue or work on it, internally, their confidence starts going up. And they're like, that was interesting. 2 days ago, that happened and I haven't thought about it. I was much calmer. Usually I would be angry for 2 hours. Usually she would be sad for 2 weeks straight.
Right.
So seeing it like that can really help. But the term is called perspective hopping, without going too deep, but it's very interesting. When you do that, you just pause, breathe, hop out, past, to come to the present, be grateful for your faith, and then look at the solutions. And in that moment, the whole intent is to be calm and focused to make the best decision. So we're not having a gut reaction or a knee reaction based on emotions rather than strategy.
Let me ask a question about that, because I have tried to do that. And when you're dealing with, it's easier when I'm dealing with a situation than when I'm dealing with an individual who is very passionate or angry about what is going on. How do I buy that time? I know we're talking seconds, probably less than a minute, but it's like when people are angry and they're coming at you, they're expecting you to have an immediate reaction. Do you ask a question? Do you say, give me a second? How do I buy that time so that they know I'm listening? They're not losing it like, okay, you don't care, you're not listening. How do I, you know what I'm saying? How do you navigate that so that I can do my zoom in and all of that?
Yes.
How do I do that?
For sure. That's a great question. So the first thing I want you to think about is every human wants two things. We want to be heard and understood. The angry person wants to be heard and understood at extreme levels. So just let them, even though you might want to like snap or do whatever, just let them let it out and say, hey, you know what? Could you let me know what's going on? Oh, really? What else? And start asking questions. And all you're doing is guiding them to let it off their chest. Okay. Once they've released and ranted, then you guys go, hey, is there anything else? Is that it? Okay. So what do you do? What do you need from me? How can I help? Is there something that I didn't give you? In that moment, you'll see their facial expression, their body language start to shift because you ask them, what can I do for you? Or is there something that I missed? And you're not taking the blame for everything. You're just saying like, is there something that maybe I missed? We're all human. And you're not pointing the finger. They don't feel like they're being singled out. You don't feel like you're being singled out. Right. And you take that energy and you control the room, the situation, or the one-on-one interaction. But step one, just let them release. And you can just ask questions. Be like, hey, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. Could you break it down, like what the issue was and why it's different this time than the last time? Oh, okay. That's why. Sometimes you just like go along with it until they got it all out. And you say, okay, I appreciate you letting me know that. What can I do to help the situation? Or is there anything that I didn't do that I didn't give you or teach you that would have helped for next time? I just want to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Oh yeah. And then slowly that person starts to open up. But the initial phase of, we didn't get the KPIs last week. We didn't hit sales numbers. However somebody reacts, that's shortened. So all we're doing is shortening the time of the negative energy by just acknowledging them and reminding ourselves they want to be heard and understood. So let's give them that first. And step one, I didn't mention yet, we have to push our own pride and ego out of the way to even do this in the first place. Because my younger version be like, who you talking to? But nowadays it's like,
I don't like your tone. Get out of my face. Right. Yeah. Which doesn't
my younger
solve
version,
anything.
I start getting stiff. But nowadays we just play smooth. It's like Bruce Lee, be smooth like water, flow with water. So when somebody comes all, they want to be heard and understood. And I say, hey, I understand there's a lot on your mind. What is the main thing bothering you right now? What is the main thing bothering you? How can I help? And all you're doing is a smooth way to snap them out of it. Because people, they expect you to respond in a certain way, respond with more calmness. And it's crazy how you can control it. And then later on, they usually feel like crap by acting that way towards you. And you didn't even say anything. They usually come back, hey, I'm sorry about 2 hours ago. Hey, no worries, no worries.
Absolutely. You control it. You haven't damaged the relationship by responding with that same level of emotion. Because that's the thing for me now is I want to maintain relationships. And I remind myself that hurt people. And usually all of that is about that little inner child who's hurt, you know, and that's who you're dealing with. And when I can envision that, which I can't always do, I'm a work in progress, but when I can envision that, I can keep myself calm and understand this isn't just about me. There's a lot going on here, and it's not always a personal attack, particularly at work, which is how we tend to take things personally when this person is thinking about their livelihood, their job, their reputation. And so
Exactly.
I love that. Thank you so much, Derick. Any final words before we go? Tell folks about your services, how to connect with you online, and if you've got any final bit of advice, happy to hear it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, so my challenge for everyone is, if there's one main thing that you got that Dr. Mo or myself said, put it to use. It might be something small, the elimination, just anything else that was mentioned. The whole intent of any podcast, any interview, be like a hunter, and you're searching for one golden nugget. When you hear it or when you read it in a book, use it. Use it. Because nowadays, people have information overload. They know a lot of things, but they don't act on them. I have a friend, he reads like hundreds of books a month, but he's been in the same place for 3 years. And I love him, but I'm like, dude, you got all this knowledge, but you don't use it. Like, you're in the same place. And he's like, man, I appreciate it. So maybe that's somebody that just listens to endless podcasts or reads endless books. Those are amazing. This conversation is powerful, but please use whatever stood out to you. Once you start to use it, your confidence goes up and you start to apply those things. Because a lot of you are already smart, intelligent, have the tools, but you're just looking for the next thing. Oh, I don't think it's that. It's not discipline. It's something else. There's another secret out there. Just take action on what you need. Take a breather. The power's already within you. You don't need us. We're just here to remind you. You already have a lot of information, so put it to use. Put it to use.
Put it to use. Beautifully. Well said. Well said. Thank you for sharing those.
I appreciate it.
Your strategies. I appreciate you so much. And listeners, please connect with Derick online. Follow him on social media. He's dynamic, always imparting information that is transformational if, as he said, you take the next step and act on it. So I appreciate you. I love my listeners. Please subscribe to be notified of new episodes. If you're new to the podcast, subscribe, like, share, comment. And to learn more about my services, keynotes, and books, go to my website, drmoanderson.com. We'll have all of Derick's information, how to connect with him in the show notes, so you don't have to memorize anything. And until next time, be well and be safe. Thank you. And wasn't that a great program? Oh, love that episode. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Learn more about me on my website, drmoanderson.com. That's MOE. You can read book excerpts, watch videos, learn about my services that I offer, and book me for a speaking engagement. I'd love to talk with your group, and I'd love to work with you. So until the next time, review, renew, and renew. Thank you.